Howdy, folks, and welcome back to DEADPIT Radio. I'm the Creepy Kentuckian.
And I'm Uncle Bill. Hi.
We got another patron request to review. Our buddy Dumal, a.k.a. William, threw this one at us from 1958. Director Arthur Crabtree. Fiend Without a Face.
Which is kind of a misleading title, really. Because when you think about, like, Fiend Without a Face, I was thinking, like, you know, it'd be a dude with, like, a blank face or something like that went around killing people. But this is nothing like that whatsoever, really. It's an outer space kind of 50s.
Yeah, it sounds a lot more menacing than it actually is when you actually see the Fiend.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we'll get into the actual Fiend part of it here in a minute, which I was kind of surprised with, because clearly we know a number of films that ripped off the Fiend, so to speak.
It's a brief movie. I mean, 73 minutes. The movie was, it was on a double bill in 1958, which is interesting. I mean, I have to look up and see if there's documentaries about this time period, right? Because back in those days, it was a double feature with usually a completely different kind of movie. It wasn't a horror double feature or anything. And this is the same way. 1958, it was playing with Torpedo Run, which was a war drama with Glenn Ford and Ernest Borgnine. So two completely different movies. And I guess the thing is they would make these movies on the cheap. They would put them together. People would, I'm getting two movies for the price of one, right? It's a double feature. And that's how the studios made money, I guess. You know, a lot of these, like Fiend Without a Face, a lot of fun. It's a sci-fi. There's a lot of sci-fi horror movies in the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, the atomic age kind of movies where everything was about the government and military experiments and how they would create these monsters. This one's a little bit different, though. It's not like it creates like a giant crab monster or something like that, like a lot of the movies did. Like this one, there's like a radar installation, and this group of they're like researching atomic particles and shit like that, and something goes awry, and they pick up this weird signal, and then all of a sudden, like people around this base start dying off, and when they die off, like the only notable thing about it is when they have their autopsies, their brain and spinal cord are missing.
Ooh.
And there's two puncture wounds like in the back of their neck, which will play into like what the actual
and at first
Fiend is.
The Fiend is kind of invisible. Right? You don't see him at first. I don't really.
You just, all you see is like the rustling of bushes or something like that, or like you'll see like that's a cheap way to kind of like, I guess, keep down costs and stuff. But whenever the Fiend would show up, you would just see like a tree shake or something like that, and then you would know that's when it was there.
And it looked like the brain with the spinal cord, kind of like a stop motion effect that they did. It was kind of a flying brain monster, if you will.
You don't really even see them either until like the very end of the movie. Like up until that point, it's just people are just wrestling with invisible fucking these invisible things that attach to them, but you can't see it because I can't remember why you can't see it either. Something to do with like some
sort of mumbo jumbo
radar and stuff like that, but I can't remember what it is. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this movie's brief enough to where like it doesn't really wear itself. Like a lot of these movies are too damn long. 73 minutes, a tough movie. Like it's tough to bore you at 73 minutes. And this one's one of those hokey, black and white. It's really shot like an episode of Leave It to Beaver, I think. It's what it technically kind of looks like.
It does look like that, yeah.
And, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I mean, the overall, like, plot of the movie is that the brain things want to hijack this nuclear generator to get all this power so that they get more and more power and, like, continue to grow and all this stuff. Here's the part about this movie that surprised me. It's actually really, really well acted and really well directed. And of all of the 1950s kind of, creature feature kind of stuff, which I don't like, to be honest, I've never been a fan of it. But I mean, my dad loved that kind of stuff, but I just never got into it. Like, there's a ton of them. This was my favorite that I've seen because it's really well done. You don't see the creatures until the very end. When you do see the creatures, they're really cool looking. And I think like Night of the Creeps and a bunch of stuff like that kind of ripped off any of those slithering kind of like thing movies. I think this might be like the origin of those type of movies, really.
Mhm.
And I just thought it was great. Like I really, really highly recommend the movie.
Yeah, it's around the same time period. And I was looking these dates up. It's kind of interesting. This was 1958. Also in 1958 was the original Blob. In
Mhm.
1956 it was Invasion of the Body Snatchers. In 1954, Godzilla. 1951, The Thing from Another World. So
Yeah.
within that whole decade there, I think The Day the Earth Stood Still was also in like the late 50s, early 60s, the original one. So there was a ton of these movies, and I guess these studios. It's much like the movie studios today. If something's successful, if a genre is successful, the studios are going to come back at you with a similar movie. And that was definitely the case then too. Like sci-fi monster movies, there was a ton of them in the 50s and 60s for sure. But that's not a genre that I'm an expert on either. We just didn't grow up with that sort of thing. I mean, like
No.
your dad grew up with that. He's probably a real young age at this point, but still, a lot of this stuff was probably playing on TV and everything else. Much like us watching the Friday the 13th movies and
Yep.
Phantasm and stuff like that. Very
Well, my
similar.
dad was the type. He was like an actual like monster kid. He had the what do you call them that you the model kits that you put together that had like the Frankenstein monster and the Wolf Man and like things like that's what he did when he was like a kid at that age. And he watched all these movies in the theater. Like that was his
He
kind of
didn't still
thing.
have those, did he? That would be amazing.
No, I asked him that when he told me that, and he was like, "No, I don't have any of that stuff. They threw it all out."
Yeah,
I
because that
wish.
stuff's probably worth crazy money at this point, I'd say.
Yeah, I wish he had any of that stuff.
But I had fun with this one, Fiend Without a Face from 1958, director Arthur Crabtree, who I think was primarily a cinematographer. I don't know how many other movies he directed. I don't think it was very many. But black and white, 1958. Criterion has a DVD of this out, but nothing since the DVD. So it's probably been like 15, 16 years since there's been any sort of physical media release for this thing. So that's kind of interesting too. Like maybe, I don't know if a movie like this would benefit that much from Blu ray or not, but an updated transfer for sure would be cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought I was gonna hate this movie. I was really dreading watching it because I just thought I know what this is gonna be like. I've seen these type of movies, but it really genuinely surprised me, and I'm glad that I got to see it because I would probably buy it. Like to be honest, like I liked it that much that I thought, you know, for that time period and everything, to me, it's one of the top tier kind of movies like that. It's not
Anybody
that
wants to check it out, I think it's on
yeah,
YouTube, right? Isn't it on YouTube if you just
it
want to watch
probably
it?
is. Everything's on YouTube. Yeah.
So yeah, you can check it out that way. Hopefully, at some point in the near future, we'll have an updated Blu-ray or something like that of it. But yeah, another pretty solid choice from our buddy Dumal on Patreon. Thumbs up,
Up you butt.
like, subscribe, and if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a fuck.
I want you to. I want you to.
I don't care.
Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. And click that bell.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others. but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last Out on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. shop.deadpit.com.
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. DeadPit on Patreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows, fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.
We ain't